we need to dwell on is the scale of what we're talking about. And this is disastrous, and I don't use that word lightly. What we are facing right now in energy, but more broadly for the economy as well. Because, when you take a step back and think about it, what is economics? What's going on in the economy? It's basically a form of energy transfer. We need energy for everything. We need it in our homes, but we need it around businesses as well. And what we're seeing right now is the kind of increase we have never seen before. We have never seen anything like this before. It's totally unprecedented. And just looking at the impact it is going to have on your average household, and there's no such thing as an average household, and for many households, the impact will be far greater, and we can talk about that a little bit as well. But just for the average household, the amount that this will take out of your average spending or your average income is greater than any period I can find going all the way back to the 1950s. So we've never seen anything like this at all when it comes to energy bills. And of course, when you're having to pay more for energy, if you're able to afford your bills, then it means you're not spending as much elsewhere. And that is why the Bank of England and most other economists think we are heading for a recession, and potentially quite a deep recession. And the scale of this, as I say, is pretty unprecedented. And the feeling, though, I think the closest kind of, feeling to what we're going through at the moment, it reminds me of just in the kind of early stages of the pandemic, when it was clear that the government was about to lock down, but we didn't know what they were going to do about it. And the scale of this is actually in some ways bigger, in some ways worse, because what they are likely to have to do if people are going to be able to afford their bills is potentially bigger than the pandemic. They've already put forward a package worth about £30 billion. I say they, I mean, the previous administration. The next administration, if they're going to keep bills low, let's say if they wanted to keep them where they are right now, they would have to end up spending potentially over £100 billion. That's double the cost of furlough over a year. And given, we just heard from the chief executive of Ofgem a moment ago, given the likelihood is those prices continue going up rather than down, those costs could actually multiply. And I said at the start, there's no such thing as an average household. For many, many households are already facing fuel poverty with levels of prices right now. This will just blow that out of the water. And for many households, it's going to be completely unmanageable. And it just seems implausible that we wouldn't have enormous intervention from the government, just as it seemed implausible that we wouldn't have would inevitably have enormous intervention from the government when they started to lock down around the pandemic. It is that kind of moment we're facing right now for the economy and for millions of households across the country.
Well, yes, and so huge pressure on those two leadership candidates to formulate a plan that they can announce when one of them wins. So the scale of the response, you're saying, would have to be huge to make sure that people don't go hungry this winter. How affordable is that? I mean, that's got huge implications coming off the back of the pandemic spending.
It would be enormously expensive. Like I say, when we looked at the amount that the furlough was going to cost, over £50 billion a year or more, then that was eye-watering. And what we're talking about now is also eye-watering, but so is the scale of what we're facing in the economy. And that's the logic here. The logic here is that we have this enormous energy shock. It's not just households, I should say. It's businesses as well. Small businesses across the country are going to be facing a terrible winter when they have to deal not just with their energy prices going up, but also the fact that a lot of people at home are going to be retrenching and not spending money because they are having to spend so much on energy. That's happening right now across the economy, but it's going to multiply as the winter hits. And if it's a cold winter, that effect gets even greater. Countries around Europe right now are doing interventions that are of that kind of ilk that I'm talking about. So you're talking about tens of billions, getting towards hundreds of billions of euros in many of these economies. It is likely the UK is going to have to do the same. What we've heard from those candidates is nothing close to what we are likely to need if you're not going to have mass destitution across the UK. It is that kind of a situation we're facing right now. It is incredibly serious. And the clock is ticking, frankly, on when this is going to come in at the 1st of October. So you need to have some sort of clarity from the candidates about what they're going to do so that businesses and households can work out how to make their plans over the course of the coming months. Because as I say, we've never seen anything quite like this before.